2023. I call this meeting of the Wichita County Commissioners Court to order. If everyone would please stand. If we wait for Commissioner Finn Cannon to give the invocation, we're going to be here a while, so I will do it in his stead. Holy Father, thank you so much for the opportunity to be here this morning. We thank you for the blessing that it is to live in Wichita County and in Texas and the United States. We thank you for the chance, all the people in this room, you've put us in different positions of responsibility and authority, and we pray that we would take those seriously, and that you would give us wisdom to make good decisions. Pray for court today that you would bless each of the commissioners and myself to deal with situations with wisdom, with humility, and looking to you for guidance. Lord, we also just want to especially lift up our law enforcement personnel. As the last couple of weeks have exhibited, it is a dangerous job all the time. And so we just pray for a special hedge of protection around them. And we thank you for the men and women who have stepped up to answer the call to protect us. Lord, you are good, and we lift you up, and we pray these things in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen.
All right, pledge to the United States flag.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
And now the pledge to the Texas flag.
Honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state, under God, one and indivisible.
Thank you. Everyone may be seated. All right, at this time, do we have any presentations for anyone to make? Okay. Then it is 11:02, and we will open up time of public comment. As a reminder, no action can be taken by the court on any items brought up during public comment, and we ask that comments be limited to 5 minutes. Does anyone wish to make public comment at this time? Going once. Okay. It is still 11:02, and public comment is closed. At this time, we will move to the consent agenda. I will go ahead and pull item 15, motion to approve procurement policy to go into effect June 1st, 2023. I'll go ahead and pull that down to general business. I have a feeling there's going to be some extensive discussion and questions on that, so we'll pull that down to general business.
And Judge, I had some just questions. I think I wanted to just clarification on.
Okay.
And I see that the health department's here, and that's good. I would like to just have her speak on that,
Sure.
if possible. But the item 11, I didn't know exactly what those were. It may be a
Those are jail keys.
keys. And that's a type of key, I guess? Okay. And on 12 and 14, those are, it says on number 12 that this item is reimbursed through insurance. Is that something that's going to be submitted to insurance, or something that insurance said, yeah, we'll pay for that?
It'll have to be submitted, but it's all part of the funding. It was necessary to do the asbestos abatement in order to continue.
And when you say reimbursed through insurance, this is TAC insurance that we pay for?
It's going to be one of three.
Should we also add that sentence to the end of 14? That this will be reimbursed for
Yes.
insurance?
Yes.
Yes.
And that was my question there, as to why that didn't carry that.
Yeah, the asbestos abatement was necessary to do the build back.
Is this the first of those 12 and 14s, or that's the first of submissions to insurance?
I think that's right. I don't remember seeing any others that.
I think this is the first bills that we've had come through.
Okay.
They're gonna start coming through.
Yeah.
Now, I guess, and certainly they need to be submitted to us, but I mean, as it stands, I guess we could be on the hook for the first 75,000 of that before any check's going to be cut to us.
If we're using TAC,
if we're
that's
using-
correct,
But if we're
but we're
gonna-
still attempting to get through James Hines.
Right. if we're going on the other insurer's liability, then,
We should be made whole.
yeah, there's no.
Yes, we should be. But
And
is
then-
that, again, us to subrogate or them to subrogate?
Depends, if we're going through TAC, then they'll subrogate it out. I think we're still attempting to deal directly with Travelers, who is not willing to cooperate at this time. But then M&F litigants and builder's risk insurance would be the second one we'd probably be going through.
Okay.
I guess, Amy, at this time, do you want to come up and introduce your guests to provide more context and information for item number 2 on the consent agenda?
Yes, of course. This is the first time I've been at the podium, so this is very nice. Very, very different. I don't like the chairs. So with me today is Andrea Bacon. She's been with the City of Wichita Falls in Animal Services as the administrator since 2018. You'll have to forgive me. I do not have my notes because I was at the memorial. And she is the expert, subject matter expert in local rabies control. She's taken ample courses. If you'll remember, I believe Lou brought this to you back in October to appoint Mr. William Tucker, who's now with a different city department. He was the field supervisor and Ms. Bacon is the administrator, so I felt like making that change would have us come to you less for this appointment. It is necessary by Texas state law and our local ordinances for the City of Wichita Falls, of course, but state law for Wichita County that we have an appointed local rabies control authority. That kind of power and responsibility has to exist outside of our traditional health department structure, so that Ms. Bacon would be empowered to make choices specific to the responsibilities associated with quarantine for those animals who meet certain criteria. And so it's a very important thing that we do just in 2023 alone to kind of give you a scope. And this is for the City of Wichita Falls Animal Services, but just to kind of give you a scope of how many animals we quarantine, it was over 170 already this year that have had to quarantine due to various circumstances. We do have to ship some of those specimens off to the state for testing for rabies. And it's quite challenging, but we have many incidences and she has lots of familiarity with it and has a lot of training around it.
Do you go by Nikki?
I do.
Okay. When I was looking over the weekend just to get some more information about who you were, and I kept seeing Nikki Bacon, and okay, good deal.
And-
Use my government name for this one.
Amy, do
Your
we
jacket
need-
says Nikki, and I was really getting confused. Okay.
Do we need to adopt some county orders that kind of set out some guidelines? I'm assuming that if the deputy, let's say, was to have suspect, they get a call and say, hey, this dog's circling in our yard and acting wobbly, and what's gonna happen from that point? Is Andrea going there at that time? What happens?
So we have a couple different circumstances, and we came to you, I think it was in November. My timeline's a little off from our flood, and we talked about that agreement that we have with you all specific for animal control. And so we will come if a sheriff's deputy or a sheriff's office representative calls us. We will come under that agreement that we have with Wichita County. We can collect that animal, but it has to be at the request of the sheriff's office. Because she is the LRCA for Wichita County, what that means is it's only for the unincorporated areas. So of course, Burke, Electra, and Iowa Park have their own, and then she also functions for Wichita Falls. But she has that right and responsibility. She technically can gather that animal and work with the owner. Typically, we try to get people to sign those animals over if it's an owned animal, but oftentimes it's not. But for the county, will come out when the sheriff's office calls us. That's how they identify us. A citizen typically wouldn't call, it would be the sheriff's office who calls. I will tell you one of the challenges we have, and we have the same issue with on-site septic facilities, whereby we do have orders in the county specific to the discharge of sewage and waste for on-site septic. One of the challenges, and she and I were actually going to stop by and visit with the district attorney's office this morning about the prosecution of we call them tickets or warrants in Wichita Falls when someone's non-compliant. That's probably, and I don't want to speak for her, I would say that's one of the biggest challenges that she has in the carrying out of duties now. Most people turn their animals over for quarantine, but oftentimes people don't want to. They're scared that the animal's going to come back to them harmed or injured or intellectually harmed or what have you. And so she has a hard time getting people to turn their animal over for that 10-day quarantine. The thing with the state, because you all fall under state law, because you don't have those local ordinances, it's a little different because the state law does allow for home quarantine in certain circumstances. But she typically works with the owner based on where their jurisdiction is to come up with those best practices, if you will. But we do have issues where we do have to ticket people. And so the prosecution of tickets, whether it be animal services or on-site or some of the other environmental services that we do for you all, that's an issue we're trying to tackle in 2023 to do a little better job with.
So the point of contact for the public in the unincorporated area would be the sheriff's department then?
Yes, sir.
Don't call the health department direct, call the sheriff's department.
That's correct,
Okay.
sir.
Okay. Maybe any other questions? Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you, Amy.
All right.
It was just a
yeah, go ahead.
comment on number 3. I'm proud to see Suzanne Darr appointed to the Wichita County Historical Commission. She comes from a pioneer family and is very, very going to be a great contribution to that committee. So I'm proud to see her nominated.
Yep. Excellent.
Motion to approve with moving 15 down.
Okay.
Second.
All right, so we have a motion to approve pulling 15 off to general business and adding this will be reimbursed through insurance sentence at the end of number 14. Motion's been made by Commissioner Beecham and seconded by Commissioner Muller. Do we have any public comment? All right. All in favor of the motion, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion carries 4-0.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank y'all.
All right, general business item number 1, review and approve the regular bills for payment. Order county treasurer to disperse payroll and bill payments within 72 hours via U.S. mail, FedEx, UPS, or electronically unless directed otherwise, or may be picked up and ledgered in the treasurer's office.
So moved.
Second.
All right, motion has been made by Commissioner Muller and seconded by Commissioner Beecham. Do we have any public comment on this item? All right, motion's been made. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion carries 4-0. Item number 2, receive a report from Annette Stanley, County Clerk, on Wichita County's recent elections. Ms. Stanley?
Good morning.
Good morning.
You know how I love to do this. Thank you, Judge. I'm just going to read my note cards because I really forgot about it till last night, so I'll start writing my notes so I don't forget anything. They're on my note cards. I was asked by Judge Johnson to give a report on the elections we held this past week. But first, I want to thank my 2 election clerks, Gina and Robin, for their hard work and diligence. I also want to thank the 3 entities involved, the City of Electra, the City of Owl Park, and the City of Burke-Burnett. They were all so gracious and patient as I learned the do's and don'ts of election processes. So big thanks to them. They're really patient with me. Even though these elections were not ours, meaning the county's, and we are not responsible for any record retention, we use these elections as a learning experience. As you all know, we've had some issues with past elections as far as record retention and organization. With that, we use these elections to practice and implement new methods in our process for retaining records. First, we created folders on our server for each entity and saved the daily reports sent to them each night. Also added to each folder was election night results. Second, we followed the central counting station plan I created that was posted to our website. And third, cast vote records were saved along with all other documentation. I want to clarify, as we were not the early voting clerk for these elections, all paperwork was sent to each entity for retention. We are also working towards being more transparent. I have talked to an IT employee about updating our election website to be more informative and user-friendly. Through conferences, communicating with other county clerks and election administrators, and welcoming trainers from the state, I'm constantly learning new ways to have more efficient and transparent election processes in order to serve the citizens of Wichita County. Any questions?
Yes, on the electronic records, Annette,
Electronic records?
how do you give the entities their electronic information that we would have accumulated?
I can still forward them. They're still
Like you
documents, they're
created the folders, you
PDFs
said, do you give those
on our
folders?
server. No, they're, all the records we saved, this was just a practice. Like I said, this wasn't our election. So we manually gave paperwork to the entities. But this was a practice run where we created folders. Each night we transferred those documents that we sent to the entities into each individual folders. That way we have them. And we saved cast vote records to an election folder. It says May election 2023. So all our documents are in one folder.
But I guess my question on that would be, if I made request to Melvin for an open records request of the Iowa Park election to you as county clerk, would you have to give me that information and do all the work for that information?
Not for this election, no. That would be the entity's responsibility. Because
Even
it
though
wasn't
you're-
our election.
Even though you're holding the information?
Correct. Because everything we have, they have.
But you're downloading all the information off the machines, cast vote record, et cetera, into our server, and that's held. And is it a special server just for elections, or is it the
It's an
county-wide
elections
server?
folder. It's an elections server. There's a
Is it-
FS, was it
Brendan, is it-
FS2, FS1
No,
elections?
It's in our normal. data
It's in the
storage.
normal, our
Normal
normal
backup
data
data
storage,
storage.
Right.
so, okay.
I mean, but if they want a request from us, I guess I could give it to them, but it's not our
we
responsibility for
are-
these elections.
All the data that we can pull off the machines is being pulled off daily?
The total
weekly?
counts were done daily.
Okay,
The cast vote records were done at the end.
at the end, okay. So from every machine, we're saving a file
From each entity,
from each entity?
right, because it gathers at the end of the night,
Okay,
and then we pull it, send it to them, and then we saved it.
okay. And that's always will be available moving forward on the server, and we have a retention plan to delete that information once it's eligible for removal.
Correct. And I just want to put out that I'm still learning, the girls are still learning, but we're just trying to get
Yeah.
our process to work. And like I said, this was a small election, so it gave us an opportunity to learn it and to get better and maybe grow on that, so.
But each of the municipalities is the custodian of.
Correct,
Custodian of that record.
correct.
Okay.
Do, and on those, that was one of my questions about the electronic storage process. I just didn't know if we were sucked into the request or the work. I know it's been extensive, but just as the mediator of performing, or the contractor, if you will, of the election, I didn't know how or to what extent we'd have to furnish anyone.
Right. For this election, we don't actually have to furnish anything. Anything that I have to keep, we posted. We were responsible for posting certain things on our website, and those were posted. But we're not responsible for anything else.
The electronic data that we keep for these elections, did we turn that same data over to the entities that we are?
The only thing I have to call the entities for is after they canvass, I need those reports. That's the only thing I need to post to our website.
Okay.
So other than that, then we'll be done with this election. And as far as actual paperwork and ballots and things, they're retaining those. We don't retain those.
Okay.
And what outside help came in during the?
We had
selection?
HART. We had HART the first day of early voting and election day. And then we had 2 trainers from the state. Actually, right before early voting, we had 2 trainers come in, and then we had 1 trainer come in election day.
From the Secretary of State.
Yes, Secretary of State.
Now,
They were great, and they're still great. They're on call and email. They're answering all
Were
the
there
questions.
any procedures or anything that were changed as a result of their assistance?
They gave me a lot of advice. They
Okay.
couldn't really tell me to change it. They could only advise me.
Advised, right?
So, but we did take that to heart, and there was things we did correct with their information.
Annette, is there election-specific software that says, hey, you completed this process, you completed leg 1, now leg 2, and
There
stores
is.
it accordingly so that you know that you got?
I'm not sure about storing it, but I know there's companies out there that have emailed me about election processes, and it's like a big calendar notifications and things like that, but I was looking into it, but the state helped us a lot, where they sent us a yearly spreadsheet that what you have to do each month and what you have to do each day before an election, and that was very helpful. So if we can do that and implement it that way, I don't think we need to pay the money to get the software to help us.
But I was thinking more specifics of the number of requests of absentee ballots, the number of duplications made from absentee ballots, and is there software that deals with those specifics of an election so that you know that all categories were complied with to someone that's building specific?
Right. I'm not sure. I would have to look into that, and maybe do have a summer conference this summer. And I know there's a lot of election vendors out there, which I can look around and see what's out there. Maybe call some other counties and get some information, see if anybody's on some type of software.
Do we still have information in the voting room down, the early voting room? Is it?
Information as far as this election?
No, as far as other elections. I mean, are we still in the process of stuff?
Yes.
Okay.
I believe I have more coming in. I was notified about that, so for the same election, and then I'm not sure about the second one.
I think we have information down there because there are still members of the
Actively
public.
going.
Yeah, there's still requests out there for them.
So, just one more question on the server. So it's saved on county-wide server.
Mhm.
What's the backup for that?
It's done now.
We have numerous different types of backups. It's backed up in different ways. As far as retention currently, I will have to get back with you on that.
Okay. And we want to make sure we're correct on that retention policy. that we're
One thing
following it
about the
by the
documents,
state's
you talk about the
requirements.
retention policy, I've looked at several websites around the state, and I'm wanting to keep all the information on our website forever and ever. That way, I don't want to get rid of it. If they want information, it's going to be out there.
Gonna be out there?
So there's a lot of good websites I've been looking at that I'm trying to duplicate or
Okay.
kind of make it our own, and that way people can just pull it up and not even have to ask.
Main
us.
thing is we have the information available
Mhm.
to people when they need it, so that we're not
Yeah,
inadvertently getting rid of it or whatever.
yeah.
So,
So
We're
we're just trying to make
following.
it better. We're trying to make it easier and better, and so the information is out there for everyone.
There's nothing in her department that's scheduled for automatic deletion.
okay.
So it's until we are told otherwise, it all maintains. So nothing will be purged unless we're told to,
Okay.
not automatically anyway.
Okay,
Okay. I guess that really answers my question right there. So.
yeah.
Okay.
Any other questions?
Any other questions?
What are you trying to concentrate on this year before we move into a heavy primary? What are you wanting to accomplish in that this year? What's your top 3 rankings?
Well, first of all, I want to go organize our warehouse. That way, when we do finish our election, it's organized to a point where we can just pull, and it's done by state statute. That's one thing. I want to understand the election process a little more. Like I said, I'm still learning, and if it wasn't for the girls, you know, I think I would have been lost. They've helped a lot, and I think us 3 and help from the state really helped us get through this small election. I say small election, but it's just like a test election for us to help just to get things going. Jeff, I just want to learn it and get through it, and hopefully just every election it gets better and better, because I know we're hitting a big election next year. So,
Yep.
anything else?
Any other questions? Any public comment on this item? Okay.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thanks, Anita.
You're welcome.
All right, item number 3, discuss, consider, and/or take action on the purchase of the Glock Model 43 handgun, serial number ZDX754, by Randy Elliott following his September 2021 retirement from the Wichita County Sheriff's Office for the proposed sum of 1 cent in accordance with Texas Government Code, Chapter 613, Subchapter D. Sheriff, do you want to come up and talk about this at all, or? Or just
Well,
answer
it's
questions?
pretty short and sweet, but it sounds like Randy retired after, what, 36, 37 years?
A long time.
And ever since we got those Glock 43s, it was used as a backup gun on pretty much daily basis. He already has a Glock, his own Glock. We were able to buy our first Glocks, actually the second generation Glocks, back from when we got the new Glocks we have now. And the company that we bought the Glocks from, they were trade-ins, and we got to buy them back at a very good price. So he didn't need another Glock since it was issued the third generation. And so this one particular Glock is it's a 9mm. It's a little smaller, really compact. That's very very useful in an off-duty situation where someone may not be aware that someone's carrying a pistol. And I carry one as well when I don't leave home without a pistol. And most all of us carry one, just the fact of what goes on nowadays in our, even closer, even our own communities, this thing's going on. So that's pretty much it. He's well deserving of it, and it's probably I think it's the only second firearm I've seen since I've been in office. Well, even with the sheriff's office, that we've been able to have somebody get their firearm that they did carry. So I think it'd be a good idea if we could.
I really think we ought to charge Randy $1, though.
I thought the same thing. I don't know if he's watched or not, but.
And you're saying that this is not even the model when you, whoever, they get the newer model Glock than even what this Glock was, or is
Yes,
there?
yeah, this was it's not a 40 caliber, which is our main firearm. We carry 40s and 9mm and 45s. But this one here would be one that it is a newer model, but not a brand new model. There's another model since this was coming out.
I see. Well, Judge, I'd make the motion that we move forward with item 3.
I'll second.
Okay.
One of us got that.
Yeah. You
Maybe
have
we
a
could
fight
set up a table down at Tommy's fundraiser tomorrow, see if we can raise that penny and help him out.
Yeah, we need to make sure the county treasurer collects that.
Yes.
Yeah. Maybe have Randy go down and eat 100 hot dogs on $1.
Randy knew this wasn't gonna go by without a few encouraging comments, so.
Well, I want to thank you for the background and the info in the request, because every question as I was reading it, y'all already taken care of it with the statute, so thank you for making that. All right, we got a motion to approve this item by Commissioner Watts and seconded by Commissioner Beecham. Do we have any other questions? Do we have any public comment on this item? All right, motion's been made. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion carries 4-0. All right. Moving on to item number 4, receive treasurer's report for month ending April 30th, 2023. Our esteemed treasurer, come to the microphone.
I'm going to hand y'all a signature sheet now, so let's go ahead and scan it in after court. And you guys should have all have a packet in the packet. A copy of it in the packet.
Well, hold on one second. Will you go make?
I can just pull my laptop.
I can pull it out.
out.
Just a second.
I can bring you guys copies from now on. And basically nothing super exciting to talk about other than staying the course as far as keeping as much as we can in the higher interest earning accounts. As money comes in, we get it over to tax pool as fast as we can and keep it there as long as we can and make sure that we can pay all the bills and collect interest as much as we get.
Stephen, is there a reason that on the text pool we have 2 general operating lines?
Yeah, one is just the tax pool general account.
Is that
And
the
then
bigger one?
Yeah, that's the main one. And the tax pool prime is the one we use mostly. The general account earns less interest. I think the main difference is that prime does more commercial paper and it gets a little bit higher interest. So
We also use that regular text pool to receive payments from the state come into that.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
We can't put it into prime.
that top line with the smaller balance.
As it comes into there, then we sweep it into prime periodically. You can see at 4:30, the regular one was 4.7984%. Prime was 4.9916%. Checked on Friday. On Friday, regular was at 5.02, and prime was 5.22. So it's still going up a little bit.
How quick, Stephen, is anybody saying that if we see some downturn towards the end of the year, how rapid could we change investment to come out of there if we, is that gonna be a process, or is that should be
Typically-
something that's?
Typically pulling it, if we're pulling money out of text pool into one of our other accounts, I can get it from text pool to A and B in 24 hours, depending on what time of the day. If it's in the morning, it'll be there the next morning. If it's after 3, I think it takes an extra day.
So
So-
relatively quick, we can.
Yeah,
do
it's
other
pretty liquid.
purchases.
So do we have any investments rolling off in the next month or two?
I believe there's one in June.
There's one in, well, TCCU CD brochures in June, I believe it is. But the rest of them are
They're still
laddered out
longer
a
term.
very long time.
Mhm.
And
But we are currently under a weighted average maturity, so.
and we did have some discussion on cashing those, some of them early.
We
We did.
We did.
Mhm.
And then we reinvested them at a much higher interest rate.
And those are laddered from 6 to 18
6 to
months.
18 months, yeah.
Yeah.
Which helps.
Yes, that's what brought
That's
us
what
under our
lowers it.
weighted average maturity.
Right.
So we are now in compliance with our investment policy.
And the higher interest rate is gonna get us more interest cash, so.
And when this says fund, that's a ledgered fund, correct? I mean, when I look at the balance in those funds, that is just
Yeah.
in, how many accounts? One, or? So like on the one that has a text pull at the top of it.
Okay.
That funds, all those funds equals 65 grand.
Yes.
Is that in one checking account?
No, those are all their own checking accounts.
Mhm.
General operating is its own, law library its own, all 5 precincts are their own. CCD, TJPC, actually permanent improvement is a part of Gen. So is reserve, no, reserve is its own. Debt is its own, jail is part of permanent improvement, and ARPA is its own. So most of it are their own,
And that's, 65 million.
yeah.
And like the reserve self-insurance on here, where is the balance of that account?
Well, this is just what's text pool.
Okay.
That's
Yeah.
just what's in text pool.
Okay.
Reserve for self-insurance in the bank, we have a money market gold, it's got $392 in it right now.
On the, which one, Stephen?
In the money market gold for reserve for self-insurance,
How much?
we have $392.26, where we made 19 cents interest last month.
But where is the
And-
balance? So, all said, all done, self-insurance fund equals how much money? Funds.
The rest of it is in text pool. Got another 37,891.02 in text pool.
But INS should have $4.5 million.
I was
Okay.
thinking it was $1 million something.
Yeah, there's a lot more money.
Yeah, we heard that number here,
Yes,
million,
there's millions of
5,
reserve
million, 8,
self-insurance.
something like that. It surprised me, I didn't realize there was that much in there,
Which counts again.
but it was over $1 million. Jeff,
Something
that'll just
I don't have
about
access
clean
to?
your deal up, I
No,
think.
you should have it.
As much as I hate to say that. One fell swoop.
Yeah, you should have that.
I didn't know
Yes.
what these abbreviations of, some of them.
I tell you, a lot of people don't realize that when we got into that period of almost negative interest, that was costing this county, what, couple $1 million a year, million plus anyway, in income that just evaporated, that wasn't there, so it's good to see that. As tough as higher interest rates are, it's good on that end of the deal.
They're in a CD. Most of reserve for self-insurance is
Okay.
in a CD.
Which is just standalone.
Yes.
That's right, yes.
That was $1 million worth of income we didn't have there for a long time.
But of course, all they got eaten up probably in inflation for voting.
That's why, because this is liquid.
Yeah, this is just the liquid cash, and so the investments are on its own report, which are both listed in my report.
That's where we saw it.
Yes, you saw it in mine, which
Yeah.
you'll be getting the April one, and should be
Okay.
next week.
All right. Do we have any other questions? Do we have any public comment on this item? Okay. Thank you very much, sir.
Sure.
We don't approve that, do we?
Yeah.
Can I?
You accept that, you don't approve
Oh, you know what?
Judge, if you want to add to authorize the Commissioner's Court to sign.
Right here.
it. Yeah.
So yeah, I will entertain that motion.
So moved.
Second.
We'll sign that.
I was just gonna wait till I get the final signed report and then we can.
Yeah. I've got the official one right here.
Oh,
Oh,
So we can go on the
don't,
website.
There you guys,
you
you have to sign your
have
own.
to sign one.
Well, isn't this the one?
Oh, is that one?
Yeah, this is
This is
the
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 original.
one I signed
Yeah.
already that you guys.
This is the one he's already signed.
No, we want the one that you signed.
And I'll get it scanned in and send off.
I'll send it your way.
okay.
Post this afternoon.
So let me make sure I've got it right. The motion by Commissioner Watts and seconded by Commissioner Beecham is to receive and authorize the Commissioner's Court to sign the Treasurer's Report for the month ending April 30th, 2023.
Correct. I'll get that.
Okay. All right. Motion's been made. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign.
Completely.
Motion carries 4-0.
Now we're official.
Now we're official. All right, item number 5, discuss, consider, and/or take action on the TABC leasing office space within the county courthouse and to approve negotiations on lease amount. Good stuff here. So we've got some, do we have guests from the TABC here today?
Yes.
Hello. Do y'all want to say anything?
No,
Okay.
just listening.
So we've got some time constraints coming up for TABC. If we are going to negotiate and enter into an agreement with them, we've essentially got about a month to do it. I think if they were going to leave their current spot, they'd have to notify by the end of next month, which is why we need to make a decision on this. There are two things I think that we need to decide as a court. Number one, do we want to lease the space? And I guess, which space? And then the second is, do we want to charge, and if there are any specific conditions the court would like to give me for negotiations with them?
Were they okay with the 10,000 you priced out monthly?
No,
I'm not writing it down.
Second.
I will say this, I've got, my main reservation is for the space that's envisioned down there on the first floor in the new area. We are not yet even fully moved in with our county operations down there. And so it gives me some heartburn to turn over a space to a non-county entity before we've had the chance to even see if we might need that space for HR, or district clerk, or law library, or whoever else in the county might be down there. I've got no reservation about TABC being in the courthouse. I'd love for y'all, the sheriff has a reservation.
No, I have a reservation. I was gonna ask the fourth floor upstairs, I'm going to the old jury, the grand jury room with that one suite of offices. I don't know who's in there, every time we've gone through, they don't see anybody up there, no one moving around. I just was gonna remind y'all, it's on the high end of the courthouse, so.
What
You won't
is
get
that?
flooded, it's not from the ground.
And we will have an elevator. So-
Yeah, we'll be there.
What is that space, Mark, now?
Right now, Pat from Littleton has an office up there, and, which we can move him, that's not that big a deal. And then, Child Protective Services Court uses a couple of the rooms for mediation rooms.
But it has a
There's-
lobby
there's
area,
another
doesn't
larger
it?
room that, I don't know who's
About the
got
old
it.
compliance,
The old grand jury.
down very far in with the grand jury used to meet, we had
That's
there.
not ADA compliant.
Huh?
That's not ADA compliant.
Well, neither of those two guys, but, you know, they walk.
Yeah, but if they're gonna use it as a,
It's gonna be
as a
public access.
public access,
Yeah.
it needs to be ADA compliant.
Is it a public access office?
For the licensing side of it, yes.
You made it the front door.
Yeah.
So, when I ride the finished elevator to the 4th floor, what do I do then to go to those sets of offices? I know the offices David's speaking of,
Turn
but,
right, turn left, turn right.
I mean, it's all, it's not a whole of an area that I walk across to go
No.
into.
No.
It's before the stairs that go up to the old grand jury room.
Yeah.
There's a door right there. It was in there, it was like 5, 6 officers, 5.
Okay.
It's like, isn't it, like 2 or 3 steps, isn't that, is
That's,
that the one we're
that's
talking about?
what, the old,
Yeah, that's,
That's the old one,
Well,
okay.
they're going to the old grand jury room.
I mean, one of what David's saying, I like, is that in the new area, you open the door and you're in top of their office. This gives you some freedom to not have that occur. So that, you know, the 4 investors in the bar that's coming down to sign up for liquor license, they're not all standing in your office all of a sudden, in that, what is it, 20 by 20 space or 15 by 15 space. Do you know, Mark, that the new office down there, what its size is roughly?
It's on the document.
Which one are we actually talking about, Mark?
The
Which-
corner beside the training room.
Okay.
It would, there's a door between the training room, Barry, where that table is, that HR utilizes, and the HR door. There's a hallway entrance door, but you're immediately in the office when you're there. Where what David's talking about is newly remodeled or newer remodeled, nice space, but it has a lobby.
I think if I remember correctly, it's 148 square feet. Does that sound right?
Sounds close.
I think that's the space we're talking about.
I mean,
Which you,
Which is 10
well,
by
you
10
got,
is
y'all
100,
need,
right?
y'all will need 24/7 access, won't you?
I will, yes,
Yeah.
sir.
That's a consideration also.
pull up my blueprints.
But you said, Judge, it's a 10 by 15 roughly, right?
Yeah, roughly, yeah. It's a small space.
But what we're talking about, the only other entrance are, protected nobody's freely going to the space ever without some kind of access to it, but they have a lot more, room usage out
Right.
there.
Because my guess is, and if I remember correctly, public access will be by appointment. Is that right?
That's correct.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
And that was probably going to be a couple of days a week that you would have set aside time to do that.
Yeah, Judge, I'd make a motion to move forward with the negotiations of that and look into that space. Let Mark give us some details, but I think that they would have a lot more usable area. And then you could come down a little on that 10 grand.
Little flex in there.
Well, and it's, I think as I said when we met on that Friday about a month ago, right now, new or renovated real estate in this corridor in the downtown areas run between 95 cents to $1.10 square foot. And of course, it's a partnership with a state partner who I think we have to worry about them paying or being bad tenants. So, am I, though, in all seriousness, was your motion to authorize for some
You can
amount?
move forward with that. I mean, take in consideration, there is I read recently in one of our deals with the appraisal district, it was, the agreement, you know, that space that we talk about, and I agree with your number, but you're also exempt of all utilities. And so in that bargaining plan, that thought should be incorporated there, so.
From y'all's perspective, right now, I think you've got roughly 1,000 square feet in the current spot. And you were talking about moving into a spot that has 150. I'm getting that's the minimum requirement.
That, and that would be plenty, Judge. I mean, we're asking you guys for a favor, so beggars can't be choosers kind of thing, right? And what we're looking at is a space for Carl to conduct, if he needs to conduct interviews on the law enforcement side, and then your regional licensing supervisor who supervises 50 counties in this region, he is here in Wichita Falls. He would like to have an office space that would be available a couple days a week for permittees to come in and ask questions face to face or do the licensing side of it. So, you know, at 150 square feet, probably very rarely would he and Carl be in the same spaces at the same time. So I think that area would work, be it on the bottom floor, be it on the top floor. I don't see that's a problem. I completely understand where you're coming from, providing for the county before you provide for somebody else. And the idea that Commissioner Watts had about the lobby, that probably actually sounds a little bit better, and I think would work for us really well.
Okay.
Yeah, for sure.
And I'll go look at that space. There's a door lock that I haven't been able to get into. I don't know who has the key.
We got a key to every door.
And, you know,
Sheriff's got an opener.
I've never been there, but if you go past that space, which was renovated at some point in time nicely, but if you go past it, headed to where they were talking about the old grand jury room, if you don't turn right to the old grand jury room, but turn left, back when juries were sequestered, there's showers and facilities there. I don't know the status of it.
There were stores last time we saw them.
Oh.
All right. Commissioner Watts has made the motion to move forward with negotiations.
I'll second that.
Okay. All right. Got a motion by Commissioner Watts and seconded by Commissioner Beecham. Do we have any other questions or public comment? All right. Motion has been made. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. All opposed, same sign. Motion carries 4-0. All right, item number 6, receive update on courthouse renovation, elevator projects, and county courthouse annex. Commissioner Beecham?
Where to begin? So, we did have an elevator inspection last week. I almost called it off based on several discussions I had with subcontractors. We determined it was better to go ahead and move forward with the elevator inspection, so we would hear it straight from the elevator inspector's mouth of the things that needed to be complied with. We did not pass. It's nothing egregious.
They just want more done.
Yeah, there's some smoke alarms, et cetera, that need to be installed that were not on, particularly the 4th and 5th floor. That was kind of left unfinished, for lack of a better term, since the floors are unfinished. But they're requiring us to finish it out with smokes on every approach, every landing. That's being done as we speak. CNI's here on site, putting those things in. we're trying to get a reinspection this week. The ball's back in TK's court. They have to send the crew up here. But as far as the elevator, main elevator, car one, everything was in order, so nothing to be concerned about there other than a few things were left out. We were able to get the lighting concerns and everything taken care of before the inspector got here, but not everything met standards, so. There's also, between the two elevators, this was a point of contention that we didn't have really good clarification on. Going back to the dawn of the project, since we were going to operate the north elevator throughout the project of the rebuild of the south elevator, TK required a divider wall between the two. And in the original meetings, we sat and discussed what that divider wall could be, and they said anywhere from chicken wire to whatever. And we chose to use some leftover sheet metal from other projects that Lydican had, cheapest, best use. So that wall was built. Wall was always intended to be temporary. Now it's going to be a permanent wall, and there was some issues with the permanent wall. The elevator inspector wanted it left intact, and it has to be where nothing smaller, or nothing larger than a 1 inch. Stop anything over a 1 inch ball bearing dropping down. So it has, where all the cracks have to be sealed. So they're having to go through and seal all the cracks in the sheet metal moving forward, and that will become a permanent structure that was never intended to be permanent.
But you can't see, once the elevator's operable, you can't see in the shaft any longer,
No,
right?
you can't see in the shaft at all.
There's
It's
no
just-
need to paint it or anything?
No, this was a safety concern during the construction of the elevator. Now, it's become a permanent part of the structure. Rather than tearing it out, they wanted it left. So that was a question that we didn't have resolved before the inspector got here, and that was one of the questions we got answered. Yeah, it needs to remain intact, and it needs to be sealed. So, even though it's not on any blueprints, plans, or documents anywhere other than we built it.
It's supposed to be temporary.
Yeah. So, hopefully, we'll get through that this week. I don't know. I don't know if TK will be back this week or not. Tried to call him first thing this morning. We left a message for him to call back. Annex, the exterior lighting's going up. Should have that exterior lighting up this week.
Mark, let me ask you about that, on the annex there.
Mm-hmm.
Is there any, on the corner, the brown brick,
Uh-huh.
is there any way to blend that to the other brick? So, you know, on the Scott Street side, the pillows make 2 sections of brown brick. On the 6th Street side, there's only 1 section of brown brick.
Yeah.
Is there a way to make all of that blend to the brick past there, going both directions?
We could have painted it. We just chose not to. That'd be really the only way. We'll be pulling the brick off and re-bricking it.
But it couldn't hold ethos or something like that?
For a cost. Well, anything can be done for a cost. So, to answer that the best way, when you look at the front elevation, the way it's drawn, we're using that brown brick on the front of the building to have the signage, so it'll say Wichita County Annex in bold letters on that brown brick to kind of make it look like it was intentional. So it won't.
That may make a big
It
difference.
won't do the same for the north side, but from the front of the building, yes.
And,
It's gonna look better when you get your awnings and all in there too. I
Yeah.
think. That should tie.
and, but
Together.
the symmetry of there's, it seems like on the Sixth Street side, and I may be wrong, but the leg is up to the brown brick, but then doesn't go,
No,
the pillar doesn't go to the top.
The columns are all the same.
The width between the
Yeah.
columns? Okay.
The columns are the same, except on the front. The front has some weird symmetry problems it already did. And we had to work with what was
The space out. to get
present
to-
in the building. So it's an odd symmetry in the front. But once the canopies are up, the
Are
whole
we gonna
project,
power wash any of that older brick that didn't get painted or covered?
it was washed already.
Okay.
Is there a stain to it, or is it
Yeah, you can see there are certain areas that just
on
kinda,
the whiter color?
yeah.
Yeah.
I call that history.
Oh.
Any idea when they're gonna come back and finish the weird patches that are in the middle of the building?
On the
that?
front,
Yeah.
when they do the ATM and
Oh, okay,
and,
cause it
um,
just looks odd.
the drop box, not deposit box. Because they haven't cut it yet, hadn't cut it in, so that's why that area is not finished. When that equipment comes in and they do that cut, then
Oh,
they'll
okay, just
finish.
use the styrofoam.
And same with the front door, when the canopies are installed, and all.
So,
As far as, is this,
Just to add, just a quick update, the NRCS USDA building in Iowa Park is now in the dry, so it looks
Wow.
like.
Wow.
Don't think they'll meet their July date, but it won't be too long where we'll have access to that building over there and we can begin to think about that project. So they are moving along and making pretty good progress.
we haven't gone to plan set yet on that, but we do have a schematic and
Yeah.
But
floor plan done.
I tell you, one thing that's gonna have to, be, studied is that volume in that Iowa Park office is just,
Oh,
to
it's
me,
incredible.
is really incredible to go watch. And those girls have done it now in that office long enough that, you've got a floating clerk that's happening, Rick's fixing a door, so she won't have to travel as much. But she is quick, and the girls at the window know that their volume stacks if they don't move, but they have some temporary hall blockage there because of just public traffic.
I don't see.
So if you look at the new floor plan, it does expand that overall hallway lobby to a degree, so there will be an offset in order to set some chairs and whatnot.
What's the estimated date to be back in the annex, be functional?
The tax office?
Yeah, the tax office, I'm sorry.
Next year,
next year.
It's what now?
it's a year,
Next year.
it's a year project.
See, because we're gonna run into problems out, we're gonna be limited to what we can do over there while we've got that kind of volume going through that building. That's gonna really factor into that project. Because it
Yeah,
is
that's
busy.
my thought.
Well, we're
Just
not,
simple.
we won't be ready to let that project until fall at best, so.
Well, yeah, but they are. I thought they never were gonna get going on that other deal. They've made good
Yeah.
progress, so it is
Yeah.
happening.
It'll be fall at best before
Yeah.
that, we've got the construction drawings.
But we
ready.
don't wanna do anything to slow the get in the way over there because they're performing at a very high level with very limited facilities.
Yeah, and it's a seamless process, and it's very cool to watch. And she gathered all of my information, went back, processed everything, brought me out even the credit card receipt. It was just phenomenal. I couldn't say how quick and
They're moving
accurate
through.
everything was handled. It was just great, so.
But even if we do go into construction in fall, we'd likely do the steel building expansion first. So that would keep them out of any construction right at the beginning, so. here at the courthouse, the temporary courtroom is moving very quickly. Again, we should be in it second week of June. So,
Is the, are you able to see, Mark, or is it locked up across from Gary's office? Can you see, is that project in the, I don't know what court we call that for sure, but,
auxiliary court,
no, which one?
auxiliary court, Tracy's court.
Yes, is that, are you able, is that an office functioning now, or is it still like?
We had originally scheduled carpet for this week. We had to delay that till next week because we haven't got the wood stain yet. But go down there and peek in.
Where is Tracy?
She's using her office. She's
Oh,
just
okay.
not using the courtroom right now.
Okay,
She's doing everything via Zoom.
okay.
But I'm gonna take a minute to brag on the guys in maintenance. They did all that in-house, matching the paneling, building the bench, everything to be ADA and safety compliant for a modern courtroom.
Right, and you had told me that that's what I was wanting to see.
They have done an outstanding job. First class, first rate. Go down there and look. They have really done an exceptional job. But all that was done with in-house labor. Removing the old Commissioner's Court dais and switching the whole room around to where it's a safe, or more safe and secure environment for the judge.
Good deal. Anything
I
else?
think that's it. We jumped around a lot.
There's a lot going on. Any other questions? Any public comment on this item? Okay, that'll take us to our final item, which was the pulled down consent agenda item. Motion to approve the procurement policy to go into effect June 1st, 2023.
Cheryl, let me ask you to jump in here. What kind of staff requirements are you going to have to modify in order to bring this to fruition?
Currently, I hired one person to be specifically the purchasing agent. That will be her entire job. Margaret will be a backup to that, but Hannah's whole job will be purchasing.
For our guests who are here, this one may take a while and may not be all that interesting to some folks in the room.
Yes.
No one will be offended if you choose to go do other things.
I'll see.
Yeah.
I got you.
That does not include commissioners.
Yeah, does not include commissioners.
So it's just a one-person type.
That is what I have currently. I do have an accountant position available that I could fill if I needed to, but we really just kind of want to see how this is going to go. I talked to the judge. It is my anticipation that within a
Thank
few
you.
years that
All
this
right,
will
we'll go
not
look
be
at that
in
one
my
for you.
department. This will be its own department, as it is in most counties our size. But as we have to start somewhere, our office knows the most on the software and have had the most with purchasing, so to speak, quasi-purchasing. It makes no sense that it stay there until she learns it. She's familiar with 262. We've really developed it, and then I do foresee it being its own department within the
Well,
next few
I could
years.
see like during the login phase, because you're gonna have to register all these vendors, that could be,
Yes, it's,
little
I mean,
time-consuming
it is
just
gonna
to-
get time consuming in the very beginning, but like all things, once you get used to it, it's gonna be pretty easy. I think it's gonna make things a little more uniform for us. We're gonna have all of the documents on the vendors. They're gonna know what's up front is needed, all the W-9s, things like that we don't have to chase down now. So I do think it's gonna take some workload off of my AP people as well. And it's really gonna flow through a lot easier. You're gonna make your requisition, purchasing agent will do most of the purchasing.
So Commissioner Fincannon did ask me to ask one question. And I couldn't really tell or and so I thought I would ask. So in any one of the precincts, they're out at far ends of the county doing work, and something pops up that they need to go to True Value in Burke or wherever to get a part or to get something that they need right then and there. If it's not during normal business hours, or even will they need to call is it envisioned that they would need to call the purchasing agent, get permission?
I think it depends on the circumstances. We built in, so there are obviously true emergencies, and there's those, after hours. What we can do is set up, I'm not gonna recommend it for every vendor, we can set up blanket POs, essentially. So it's already in the system, and then they would bring us the receipt later. So if those vendors you use all the time, Lowe's for maintenance, things like that, that way we
Bolts,
aren't,
nuts, pipe
that way
fittings,
you
little
don't have to
things.
wait on the actual requisition to get put through the system, because she's not gonna always be able to jump at,
Right.
a moment's notice. That's where some pre-planning might need to be done, or we're gonna need a blanket POs that we will draw against, like your rock. We know how much you're kinda gonna spend, we would open a blanket PO and then put the AP against the blanket PO until it's drawn down. So, there are definitely ways that you can do that. Yes, in a true emergency, if it's an emergency, just go get it done. If it's the quasi-emergency, it's just after hours, we kinda need a bolt. I envision that we'll have open blanket POs for that, but if there's not, then yeah, you're gonna have to make a phone call. Thomas is gonna have to pick up the phone.
Well, I read a precision, an emergency deal was one of the things that I flagged, and I believe you said something about giving the judge authority.
The judge has the authority.
Just a situation like, okay, we've got flooding in the county.
Yep.
It's midnight.
Yep.
We've got all our barricades out. The
Yes.
rental house, and we've got the night number, they've got them.
Yep.
So that's one of the instances we need to go get 10 more.
Right.
We could do that by
Yes.
maybe making a phone call. That's just one thought that I had. It
Yes.
doesn't happen very often.
It
but-
doesn't happen often, but we put that in there to grant him the
But
authority.
when it does, you need to be able to
Yeah.
respond.
Right, and I don't want this,
Yeah.
262 is not designed to hold us up in emergency
Yeah.
situations.
So what happens, give me this scenario, Cheryl, if, let's say a machine, a big equipment, piece of machinery throws a code, okay? I have to get help. I have to call a contractor of sorts to come and tell us the problem. So what happened? Walk me through that scenario as you envision it here.
Well, in that scenario, you're gonna need to call in somebody, but we're gonna have to authorize the payment for that. So I don't wanna say simultaneously, but you're gonna need to fill out a requisition that we're going to need to pay for that. I assume Debbie's probably gonna be the one doing that for you guys anyway, or Nancy. And you put in the requisition, it would go through the purchasing, but that's not gonna hold you up on making the phone call to get that scheduled either. Just do it kind of together. Because we're gonna need to know kind of in ballpark what we think it's gonna be. Yes, you're probably gonna estimate higher than lower. Put in an estimated value on what you think it's gonna be, so we can make sure there's money in your budget for it. Cause those funds have to be encumbered. We can't spend what we don't have. And that is part of
The
the.
federal government does it every day.
Well, I know, but.
I don't think we would use them as a model.
I'm not saying that's a good practice.
Well, but the
Yeah.
process could be ongoing, and
Yes.
who's handling the process? So the codes come out and say, Jeff, this indicates that you throw the rod in the motor. Well, how much is that gonna cost? We don't have a clue until we
We
get
get
it
it
tore
tore
down.
open, yeah.
So then what happens?
We'll have to amend our requisition and we're gonna kinda have a ballpark. We may just have to go high, so that we make sure we have the encumbered funds for that.
You're not gonna have a number till you get down toward,
Yeah, so
well into the project.
Yeah, I just,
But
what I was
gonna have to put
concerned
in
about is
something.
dragging somebody along through it's complicated enough,
Yeah.
but dragging someone through the process to, well, just like this morning, I have a need to call and lease a backhoe. Well, there's gonna be a series of questions that come. If I said, Nancy, and she was a purchasing agent. Can you get me a backhoe from Yellow House? She's gonna call me 20 times, Cheryl.
Yep, and that's probably
With
gonna
questions.
happen, and that is the requirement of 262, is the purchasing agent
But
it has to go through the purchasing
my
agents.
question would be, how are we bettered by this process?
I'm not saying that I agree with that, but unfortunately, that is the law, that it goes through the purchasing, process through a purchasing agent that's been designated. So, I don't disagree, but that is kind of the law. The point of it is that we're getting the best money for our value, and yeah, it's gonna take her some time. Not every purchasing agent's gonna know off the bat, and they don't in every county. And she's gonna have to learn as she goes, and in the very beginning, she's probably gonna have 8 million questions. And there might be a process where y'all work together for her to be on the phone, and she can do the purchasing side, and you do the answering all the 8 million questions for the
Well,
vendor.
I guess I'm asking, so for the last 30 years that we've done it the way, and I fielded all 20 of the questions to get the backhoe delivered, what is wrong with that process?
It's in violation of the state statutes.
So we're
Because
operating outside the law?
We've been operating outside of the law.
I have a question. So on the travel,
I was afraid you might.
on the travel,
There's-
they call us from Washington State on Friday and say you're inmate that's being released, and you have warrants on them to pick them up.
Yeah, we're gonna
And
have
you
to
gotta
have,
file in Washington, rent a car, drive 4 hours, go to that prison and come back.
yeah,
Who's gonna take care of all that in a timely manner? We don't have 10 days to get that person.
yeah, and it's gonna have to go through the purchasing policy, and we're gonna have to develop those short-term policies with either open POs for you guys, so that we can handle that, but yes, they have to go through that purchasing.
So help me understand the violation. So, because most of the counties I know don't have such a person, just simply size-wise, they would, Tarrant County would, Harris County would. But how do they stay compliant? Let's say Wilbarger, for example, or
They're probably not, they probably aren't compliant, just as we haven't been.
And then let me ask you, so, we just approved bills this morning, okay? So we're gonna spend the next 2 or 3 months allocating funds to, let's say, the jail, 561. We're gonna lay out those categories and approve that funding, take a vote before September, the middle of September, for funding that budget, taxing everybody for it. And then every Monday morning, we're gonna approve those bills that pass before this court are presented to this court for payment. But there's also a requirement for an additional person to be involved.
Yes. 'Cause we have to make sure that the funds are actually available when they purchase those items, and that they are the best value for the citizens' dollars. They meet purchasing requirements depending on dollar value, bidding requirements, those things. And it is in 262, we've been pretty good with it, but we are outside of the law. And the bidding process will go through the purchasing agent as written in the policy, and that keeps us compliant, keeps us, make sure our contractors are licensed, they're insured, they're bonded correctly. We've done all of those things as a requirement of 262.
When reading through this thing, there are a lot of things that jump out at me, and I've tagged a couple of them. Things like this particular one, let me just read a couple sentences. On occasion, the judgment of the purchasing agent will not coincide with the judgment of the person making the requisition request. While every effort will be made to accommodate differences, the ultimate decision must lie with the purchasing agent. The purchasing agent is a non-elected employee.
And may not have the expertise on a subject matter to make the best
And the
decision.
purchasing agent doesn't answer to the same people we answer to.
Right. It
And that
puts them
causes me heartburn.
Well, it also makes them non-biased. So it lets them go get the best price and the best value without necessarily pulling in someone, I'm not gonna say this happens, but just say, not for my buddy over here at, Joe Blow's Smoke Shack or whatever, we're gonna go get the best value over here. We're gonna look at several different options and we're gonna make the best judgment. That's the point of the purchasing, so that we're not giving, and we're not having
And
ethical
I
violations.
wholeheartedly agree with that,
Yes.
but
We don't
But
have
let's
business
take a
cards.
subject matter expert such as Brendan, and he says, I want 50 Dell laptops. These are the best value, best possible purchase for our need. This just fits in our purchasing. No, I don't agree. I want to go Gateway. And
But
because I think it's
there is
better.
I
an
mean, they're not
exception
gonna-
in IT.
Yeah, there is an IT
Yeah.
section, but, no, but when we're looking at like pens or chairs, this is generally applicable to general items, not something that's, specific in nature. I
Well,
mean, yes,
and
it's just
sure,
gonna pull
your
that.
point's
I mean,
well taken in that. I understand wanting it to be,
If Will wants a new Glock, it's, you know what, we're not buying Glocks anymore. We want to do whatever. I don't know.
but the thing about that statement that I just read that bothers me is we are held accountable by
Yeah.
the voters.
We are.
And very much so, and that is, if that's not enough reason to do the right thing and do it the way you're supposed to do it, the man sitting right over there will see that we go by the law.
I think,
He's got a lot
It
of
even
help.
says here that if we make an unauthorized purchase, then it'll be turned over to the district attorney's office for
it said it
prosecution.
can, yes,
So
it is that.
I think that's a little strong.
Well, that is the requirements of the law. I mean, it does say that you could be subject to those penalties. I don't foresee that happening. I mean, we're not talking about accidental, I think they're talking about gross misconduct. But
Yeah,
when you're
okay.
approving your
Well-
bills and stuff after the fact, it's after the fact. Y'all aren't getting to see the front end of it.
Why don't we do this? I think there's enough unanswered questions that probably needs to have maybe a Friday work session.
Yeah.
Where we,
I think it's
dig through
great
it.
that we're going here.
Because I also, I do want to say something. I don't think that I agree that we are in violation right now of 262. I think that if we were to adopt a purchasing agent and then didn't do some of these things, then we would be. But that, I don't know that we are right now. And that might be something for our esteemed counsel here, for the DA's office to.
Well, we
to make sure
certainly
that-
take that very seriously.
Yes.
That's okay, so, yeah.
No. Again, I think it's great that we're doing this. I think this is much needed. I've got way too many questions and not enough time to
Yeah.
go over this document and understand it thoroughly.
Yeah, I'm certainly not opposed to it, but I want it to function well. And I think that's what
And
everybody.
it was modeled off of two counties,
Yeah.
mostly that are functioning very well, El Paso
Right.
County and Galveston County, which is what this is modeled off of, and they are extremely good at this.
Well, yeah.
What-
Galveston County with HGAC, they're, yeah, very involved, I guess, with all that. So HGAC is one of the buy board
Mhm.
type co-ops that we purchase through.
And Judge, we'll see, we'll find a little pushback from this from some of our smaller vendors probably that, when they're gonna be overwhelmed when they see that packet
Sure.
to fill out, which is in these notes. I mean, there's gonna be some growing pains through this
Sure,
deal.
absolutely.
But I agree with you, there's a number of things to discuss in this deal.
What I don't want to happen is
The
for this to be
Personnel
another
policy,
thing
no.
that hangs out for months or years
You know us,
or
don't you,
decades.
Judge?
Well,
So I think, but I also don't want any commissioner to feel like they're being pushed too fast into something they haven't felt they've had a chance to.
And I don't think we're gonna be able to answer every scenario at the beginning, and it will be a living document that we're gonna have to tweak as we go.
Yeah.
We'll
Did
know a
you,
lot more about it 6 months later.
That is correct.
Sheriff, did you want to say
Yeah,
something?
just, my parents going through the whole rules and things on it, from the state. He's finding, it's typically, we all know in government, state government, it's shall or may. And he's finding a lot of mays than more than shall. And I just throw that out there.
Sure.
I know legal's gonna dig into all that, but we look for these things too whenever we're dealing with anything we deal with, especially criminal procedure, because the shall is what bite.
Yes.
The maids may or warning sometimes.
Yeah. Thank you. So I think what we'll do then, because I don't want this to hang out, I would like to have this in place before that June 1st line.
That narrows it down.
And narrows it down. So we can put this on a Friday agenda.
You want this coming Friday?
We can do it this coming Friday, but you're gonna be down county judge and one commissioner. And the last time I wasn't here, y'all talked through stuff, there was heck to pay when I got back. Can't leave y'all anymore.
That was on you.
So it may need to be the,
But I mean, June 1st that's quickly coming up. I mean, what happens if it's July the 1st? I mean,
nothing except,
we
we just keep pushing it.
well,
I think we get your point.
I agree. I just, one of my concerns is, we know kind of what we're spending now, and now we've potentially added a cost to more spending, and we've not fully identified that cost of additional spending. This puts us in compliance with state and federal guidelines on procurements, but we both know that we don't want to copy the state and federal government on procurement, because it's just kind of a very, if they were running the business, they'd
Some
be
most
out
efficient
there.
things that,
And that concerns me a little bit to not, are there other, are there more simplified, like the purchase of county typing paper? That's a perfect project. But we have a lot of complexities and differences across departments that make it very,
Well, a lot of that, we've solved with our Amazon procurement carts where you can add what you need and it goes through. She's not gonna, depending on the dollar value, you can see there's a tiered step in there on dollar value. Those little piddly purchases, they're probably just gonna approve and go on. It's the more expensive ones that we need to be the most concerned with.
and I think that's one of the biggest things I heard when I went to one of my initial trainings was a presentation by one of the counties that any bid that was over, or any item that was over 5,000, but it was under 50. So it's not brought into the competitive bidding requirements, but their purchasing agent, their department
Does the due diligence.
They went around and got quotes, and then that way they were able to come to the court with a ton of different information on a ton of different, on different vendors and different potential avenues to get it that we may not have done previously. I think that's a place where that does add more efficiency and more value for the taxpayer. But I also, I get the point on, there's a lot of specialized stuff.
well, just to give you an example, I ran across this many years ago. I had the specs before me of a particular piece of equipment that needed to be going out for bid on. Well, what I quickly realized, and this was in school business a long time ago, that as long as you were a John Deere dealer, you could bid on the equipment. But the local case dealer couldn't handle it because he couldn't meet these specs that were set up by. And, that is just another layer of complexity that is sometimes run up against.
Well, let's do this. Let me ask the members of the court then, if you haven't already done so, read through it, make your notations, your questions and everything. And we'll set this on the agenda for not this Friday, but next Friday. And we'll dig in and plan to and get through that whole thing in one. Oh, maybe not.
So this Friday's 19th, and next Friday, the 26th, you're having.
That's a voting session.
Not a regular.
We're having our regular voting session.
Yes.
on the
Yes,
26th.
Because the Memorial Day is the 29th.
Because we won't be here on the
Oh.
30th.
I'll bring in pizza for everyone.
Use a card.
Start early and have a work session prior or a work session
Well,
after?
that's
Keep
true.
it
We could
personal.
Oh, we
call a
can-
work session
yeah,
on any
yeah.
day. It doesn't have to
Yeah,
be.
that's,
Yeah.
it doesn't have to be Friday.
That's a good point.
Just want to note that, and Monday, or no, last Friday, I guess, we delayed the generators discussion. Was it last Friday?
Yes, yeah.
And so, part of that delay was the delay that we've been having getting some of these modules put in. And I want to comment that I've got a backhoe, no doubt headed to Mexico this morning.
No, you
That-
don't have a backup.
I don't have a backhoe, but it's probably headed to Mexico. But the deal is, had we timely been serviced and the modular in place, I could tell you the longitude and latitude right this second from my phone of that piece of equipment. And now it's gone on well over a month that they've delayed, and just very irritating to me, and it's,
Stick a tracker.
so.
Okay. Well, then we may do a non-Friday work session for just this, and we'll make sure that gets posted, and everyone will have plenty of advance notice.
I'd feel way better having more time to
Okay.
look over the document and understand it.
All right, then we will finish with that item with no action taken today. Do we have any public comment on that item? Okay. I think that is. Did I leave anything else off? Did I know?